It seems
function
it
5.
seems
Function 5.
Right. Okay.
Very good.
Right. So I actually love that Liz spoke about the self, because it seems like we sort of planned this, and it moves very beautifully into my own presentation, which is about the self. So I'm going to start my timer now and place it right in front of me. Okay, so good evening from Pakistan, everybody. It's about 9:22 p.m. here. And over the next few minutes, I will share the story of my transition and my realization during the COVID-19 crisis of 2020. So at the time that the whole thing started in March 2020, I was operating as the Director of Professional Development at a very large private chain of schools in Pakistan, which also have international campuses around the Middle East and in the UK. Now, in my role, I was responsible for the professional development and training of teachers and school leadership in the organization. This means that we were at that time in the midst of launching at least 3 new projects for the academic year 2020-2021. And some of those courses are listed here. So it was with different international service providers in the Middle East and in the UK, and also some in-house programs. And all of these were to be launched at various points between March 2020 and January 2021, with faculty actually flying in from these regions to come and deliver in Pakistan. Now, my eagerness to keep everything on track was because I was due to fly to the TESOL International Convention in March. My flight was scheduled for the 22nd of March to fly from Lahore to the UAE, spend a few days with my friends there, and then travel onwards to Denver on the 29th of March. And things actually looked good. But then on the 20th of March, at the close of business day, all staff in my workplace were asked to leave the head office and return home and stay home until further notice. And as it happened, the next morning, the airport shut down and all flights were canceled. Now, of course, what resulted was confusion over what we were supposed to do next, uncertainty over the status of our jobs and our projects, and a lot of frustration and anxiety at having no answers until the management decided that we were to meet. Now, this started a marathon of meetings at the head office in person for the first few days, much to our terror. Then telecalls over the next few days, and finally, endless online meetings, because the context that I was employed in was so unprepared for any different form of learning. And then around the first week of April, we were asked to formally report back to work. And this happened at the time when most of the country was in lockdown. Of course, not everybody was happy, as it was still unsafe to do so. School heads were asked to immediately start online classes using Zoom, which permitted up to 40 minutes of free session time in the free version, and use Google Classroom to upload student work. In the meantime, the IT department was allocated the responsibility to get teachers and school heads trained to use Microsoft Teams, which was supposed to eventually become the official app of the organization that I worked for. Now, in their eagerness to train teachers and start classes, The IT team and management forgot to include critical stakeholders into the scheme of things, parents. This, of course, led to complaints about having to pay school fee for reduced hours of online classes, where teachers were still seen to be experimenting and learning how to tackle technology in their online classrooms. Towards the month of May 2020, after what seemed like endless hours of work from office and home, we gradually got teachers, students, and parents on track. And now we were ready to make the transition to reinitiating our human resource development projects or the teacher training projects that had been bumped off the calendar. All of these are online, but with a more spaced out calendar rather than the intensive training in a single go that the context was traditionally used to having. As teachers were eased into the use of Microsoft Teams, teacher training gradually resumed, and it was once a week in bite-sized format for continuity. Overall, within Pakistan, universities and schools were immediately shut down, and they were asked to declare an early and extended summer break until further notice and until a decision was made by the authorities. And academic experts and policymakers started speculation sessions online, which was a lot. So around this odd time, I sensed that it was time for a transition, some kind of a long overdue change. So at a time when everybody clung to their jobs, I resigned from mine as the Director of Professional Development. Now, this decision had been looming and was much needed and was primarily aimed at self-care and reconnecting with my professional purpose, which had not been possible for a year. I immediately made a to-do list that reprioritized my priorities as an academic. I restarted work on my publication projects that had been on the back burner for a year. I enrolled in 2 professional development certificate courses that I had been wanting to do for the last 8 months. With the Association of Talent Development. So I took up Professional Coaching 1 and Evaluation 2. And finally, I found time and energy to reconnect with my international professional network, all of whom are among the EFLtalk speakers today. So 4 months down the lane today, I am looking for another job, yes, somewhere around the world, but I relish that I'm able to be part of the career path development PLN. Thank you, Liz, TESOL Gulf. Thanks, Rana and George. EFLtalks. Thank you, Rob, Hind, and Fatma. I've also been able to fulfill my role in the TESOL nominating committee, participate in EFL Business English SIG, Teacher Training and Education SIG, TESOL Second Language Writing Group, and engage in a research project with my colleagues in the Middle East. I clearly remember a colleague on the nominating committee once sharing how her professional development priorities were disrespected and not supported by the organization that she worked for. And she bravely chose to leave the organization. My transition feels similar, as since I left, it has been onwards to self-care and my priorities with my profession. Now, a few valuable lessons that I have learned through this period are: transition happens when it is meant to, and when it does, one must go ahead. Professional communities and associations are important, emotionally, professionally, and mentally. Self-care for educators is essential, since it not only is physical, but also mental and professional. As in my case, it helped me get back on track to work on my publishing projects and reconnecting with my professional learning networks. with that, I would like to thank you for listening to me. And here is where you can find me. Thank you.